This is me 6 months ago. And this is me about 10 days ago. I had an absolute transformation from being one of the unhealthiest I've personally been to one of the best health shapes of my life. And I want to talk to you about my journey and how I used both AI and peptides to make that possible. What I did was essentially I ended up building a system that combines together all of the data insights from my DNA, my blood work, my protocols with peptides, workouts into one holistic system that was giving me actionable insights of what is going on the inside of my body. And I become obsessed with this. The reason why I became obsessed with this is because, well, about 13 months ago, I had a baby. And I don't know if you've ever had a little baby, but when you have this little human that you're responsible for, all of a sudden it kind of hits you that like you want to be around for like their graduation. You want to be around for their wedding and it just kind of hits you differently. And I don't know about you, but my father died a number of years ago, and the thing that happened was he was a good man, an honorable man, but he could not control his habits and he smoked and eventually got lung cancer and he died. And I was sad because he couldn't be at my wedding. He couldn't see my son. He couldn't see his grandson. And I didn't want the same mistakes of my father. And so I want to take the last lesson that he gave me and I decided to take into my own life to go, what can I do about my life so that I can be around and take the lessons from my dad to be available for my son for as long as humanly possible. So what I did, first step was what you normally do is you'd go to a doctor. And I asked my doctor, I said, hey man, do I got cancer? Can I get a blood work? This is important for me to be around. And he said this to me. He's like, hey, you're healthy. You're fine. You're young. Like, unless you've got like a giant bulge in your neck sticking out like this, don't worry about it. Like, come see me when it's like this big and we can talk about it. And I was thinking to myself, like, that's too late, man. If I'm going to wait until I'm growing a second head, that's not going to be a good thing. And I was thinking about why he would say that. And funny enough, a couple of months go by. I do some blood work. I'll tell you what he said in a little bit about my blood work. But a couple months go by, and I'm talking to another doctor from the same medical establishment. And he told me this. He goes, look, I have 1,000 patients, and this company allows me to spend a maximum of 15 minutes with each patient. Max! That's all he gets. And I thought about that, and I realized that we rely on these people in lab coats to tell us to be the best version of ourselves or to don't do this or do that or you're totally fine, don't worry about it. But they've got 1,000 patients. They can barely manage their business. And I realized that this was just a business. This hospital thing, it's about not maximizing my health. It's about maximizing their profits. It's about them trying to keep me away from the hospital as long as possible to be able to then wait until things get really bad and then give me a whole bunch of expensive medical treatments like pills and radiology and all the other things that you need to get that once it gets so bad, it becomes really expensive. Once I realized that, I said, you know what? We're in a new times. We've got AI, we've got data, we've got our ability to take our health in our own hands. I started doing that. I started going really deep into the space. Right? I started studying. Technically, I wasn't reading books. I don't know my whole thing. I was working with AI. I was looking at PubMed. I was going through and looking at articles and seeing what's out there, what really works, and what can I do to be as healthy as possible. So not only did I get blood work from my doctor, but I went ahead and I got my own blood work as well. And things when I got my blood work back, here's some things that I noticed. I noticed I was at 5.6 with my hemoglobin A1C, which is basically a point 0.1 away from pre-diabetic, even though I supposedly looked really healthy. Now, if you don't know this, this hemoglobin A1C, otherwise known as an HbA1c, measures the percentage of hemoglobin in your blood that has glucose attached to it. Because your red blood cells live for about 90 days, this gives you about a 3-month average of how are you interacting with glucose. And you can see here that this is not great. I also have some other markers here for my lipid profiles, which is around my cardiovascular health. And if you look at this LDL, what that basically does is it measures the cholesterol in your body. 1060 is pretty darn high. And the thing is, most standard panels never even test for this. I had to test for this specifically because of a very specific reason that AI told me about, which I'll get to in a hot second. Now, this lipoprotein A here is something else that is a specialized lipid protein particle that carries cholesterol, but also has a protein attached to it called an apolipoprotein. And this actually makes it extremely more dangerous for two reasons. First, it's more likely to stick to the artery walls, and then also it makes it harder for clot dissolutions. So this means that I am pretty high when it comes to a lot of cholesterol, and also that my heart is gonna be a bit jam-packed inside of there. Now, these are things that no doctor ever told me about that I had to go and find out on my own. Now, the reason why I did this is actually because when I ran my DNA, it told me that I have a very specific gene variant, this LPA-RS 10455872, which basically says that I am very susceptible to this type of interaction in my body. Essentially, this LPA gene variant is instructions for producing this apolyl protein that is the thing that does the sticky attachment to the insides of the artery walls. Basically, what it does is it produces way more of these types of proteins than my body can really clear out inside of my liver. So the difficult thing about this is that this DNA variant, this is one of the strongest genetic predictors of elevated LPA ever identified. And that's me. Yay! But I wouldn't have known that unless I ran it through AI to find out what's going on. So if I'm looking at my DNA and I'm looking at my blood work and my lifestyle, for me, I need to double down on the things that will cause this to be lowered, which we can dive more on what that looks like at another point. But you yourself are going to have different gene variants and expressions that are going to have impacts on your body that are going to be more so than a doctor is going to really know about. So when I went to talk to the doctor and I asked for this blood work and I said, hey, I want to know what's going on. Here's what he told me. And let me know if they ever said this to you too. He says, hey, if I don't call you, everything is fine. Well, guess what? I got my blood work with him. He never called me. He never let me know. We know if he's got 1,000 patients, he's probably busy. There's not a chance that he's going to be able to get back to me unless there's something blaringly on fire. And then it's already too late. So we have to take things in my own hands. And so that's what I did. I went on my own little journey. I took AI, I took peptides, and I started tracking everything into one holistic system. And shit works. You can see here on the peptide protocol that I went through for about 2 months here, including a little bit of diet and nutrition. And there was some other psychological things that happened that were pretty mind-blowing that I'll probably cover in another video about taking peptides. Is that I lost about 30 pounds here, and it was fairly easy to be able to do so. And you can see here, I'm not really jacked, but I am in way better shape than I've ever been before because of this. This is me and my wife. I went to Athens, Greece, and I wanted to look like a Greek god, right? So I posted up, arms out, and I was like, let's get this photo. What's funny is on the background, there was actually like a whole bunch of tourists all bundled up with hoodies on and stuff like this. And I was like nervous to take my shirt off, but then I did. And they all started like filming and recording. It was pretty fun. But anyways, I got so excited about this. It was like winds in my sail. I started to see progress, feel progress. And I got really excited and really obsessed with this fact that it actually can change your own life and own health. And these were some of the results that I got back after my second round of blood tests. This was February here in the beginning. And then I show you about a month or so into this whole hemoglobin thing. So this was the first couple of months of talking to my doctor, not really getting any results. And this was me starting my own peptide protocol with AI going on my journey here. And you can see that this hemoglobin A1C dropped into 5.3. And then again, now in January below here to 5.0. What that means is that my insulin sensitivity basically got reset. And my likelihood of having diabetes is way down. It's pretty incredible to see what happens in just a short period of time when you're actually working with your body. Now over here, you can see there's a bit of a glucose reset. I go from 92 to 80, which shows you that I go from a high side of glucose to dropping down to this mid tier in terms of responsiveness to glucose. This isn't as incredible in terms of big major results, but just something to see that I'm moving in the right direction. Now, if I take a look at my inflammation markers here, which is this C-reactive protein here with the cardiac, I go from 0.28 to 0.15, which is already low to begin with, but basically drops off the edge of a cliff here at the end of this, where it's more or less non-existent when it comes to inflammation. If you don't know this, inflammation is one of the key correlations when it comes to diseases in your body, inflamed areas. And so, why is mine so low out the gate? Is it because I am a picture of health and beauty? No, it's because I have the TN alpha gene here, which is a low inflammation variant, and an IL-6 low inflammation variant. So, that's already written in my code. My gene expression here already pre-positions me to be low. Now, I combine that together with BP157. And by the way, I have more videos talking about all of the actual true ground literature on all the different protocols of peptides, BP157, TP500, Peptide, and all of the other ones that I have taken, and all of the ones that are out there in the marketplace that maybe the FDA has or hasn't approved yet, but talking about the real results and the real impacts, the literature that's out there. So I'll do videos on that later. But the 157 was really to fix anything inside of my body, one for inflammation and also for tears and ligaments and joint pains. That actually ended up healing. I had a torn muscle inside of my bicep where I couldn't lift anything. So I went in here and I started going through a protocol with it. And within 3 weeks, my arm was healed and I could get back into the gym, which is incredible. TB500 for overall body health. And this is an inflammatory effect as well for reducing those. And then the Retatrutide helps with resetting your insulin sensitivity. It works on basically 3 different pathways. This not only suppressed my appetite, it also reset my glucose. And one of the things that was incredible with it, and people may or may not tell you about this, it removes for a while your associations with addictions because it's resetting those dopamines inside your body. The pull for not just food addictions, but all addictions drops dramatically in the first couple of weeks. Now, here, my inflammation markers never moved because my genes and the peptides worked together. And when I dropped all that weight, you would expect it to go up, but it didn't because of the combination of what I was working with and what I already had. So here is a bit of the system that I built out that I'm going to show you here. I call it the Health OS system. Essentially what I did is I took all of my blood work, I took all of my genes, I took all of the peptides, and I made these actionable insights that it's feeding to me so that I know what's going on inside of my body. The intention of this is to do something that your doctor never could, to actually give you not genetic averages, not population averages, not general commentary on what best practices are, but to give personalized, precision, insights, and actionable steps based on your genes, your blood works, and what are you doing right now with it? And so taking all of these things together, we are now able to get all of these insights of what is going on in our body so that we can take control over our health. So here's the deal. Here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be building videos showing as I iterate through this. I'm going to be testing this on myself. I'm going to be iterating. And then eventually I'm going to make this available to other people for them to be able to use, for them to take health into their own hands. So I kind of think of it like debugging. You feed it inputs, you read the outputs, you make some adjustments, then you test again. And all of the technology is now available for us to be able to do this. Now, here's the deal. This isn't medical advice, right? This is just me taking action in my own hands. These are my results. These are happening to my body. But this is based on the data that is available. And if you think about this, that AI is only as powerful as the data you give it. But what happens if you start to feed it your own data, your own genomes, your own blood work, your own peptide protocols based upon the literature of really what's going on, not waiting for some dude in a white lab coat to tell you what to do, but you to take action, you to take responsibility, and you to take accountability for who you want to be and how healthy you want to live. And so for me, I didn't want to wait around till things were terrible. I'm going to let DocBot here work with me to figure out what I can do to be as healthy as humanly possible. So, if you're someone who feels like they're not as healthy as they could be, even though people in lab coats are telling you everything's fine, this is for you. If you're someone who maybe became a parent, a mom or a dad, and you've got a new reason to extend your life for another 10, 20, 30, 50 years out, just had a kid, don't want to die, this is going to be for you. And if you're just sick of being a number where you go in and you're really trying to find things out because your health matters to you and you want to take control of your own health and get away from the system that is this whole machine of pain management, this channel is going to be for you. And so here's what I've got coming up. My next video is how I went from skinny and lean to jacked in 3 months, the peptide protocol, what I took, and what the blood markers were saying based on AI and what I'm going to be doing next. So if that sounds interesting, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care now. Bye.